The staff of life. The falsification of bread is an ancient practice. As it concerned the poor directly, it was always essential to find a good, honest baker and not to accept bread that was low in nutrients. This is still true today. The declining quality of the bread was even the cause of many riots leading up to the French Revolution. However, as we know, the more you resist evil, the stronger it gets. So we should not be surprised that the shortcuts in bread making, fillers, and the overall adulteration of bread has made such great progress in covering its tracks. The best resistance is a clear mind. Today's bread is not the same as it was before. Here are a few notable differences. Traditional bread. Non-engineered, rustic, heirloom varieties of wheat, high in protein, Polish wheat, einkorn, spelt, emmer. Before 1900, there were 98 widely used wheat varieties in France. Today, there are only 2 dominant varieties. Bread made with homemade liquid sourdough leavening, which was made by the baker himself, which contains various bacteria. Grains which are ground with the millstone, allowing for a gradual assimilation in the body without causing blood sugar levels to spike. The millstone keeps the flour much cooler, which maintains the vitamin E quality and quantity, as well as safeguarding many of the B vitamins which degrade in contact with light. The millstone's uneven particle grinding effect reduces these varying types of exposure. Very little time between the milling of the grains and the preparation of the bread, the fermenting of the dough. Use of coarse, unrefined gray sea salt. Soil rich in minerals, especially magnesium, along with the widespread practice of composting. Traditionally, bread was consumed with fat for proper assimilation and, of course, for the taste. Pre-soaking the flour in buttermilk, fermented milk, or yogurt for preparing pancakes, cakes, and biscuits. Longer fermentation of bread. Slow-cooked loaves of bread, pumpernickel for example, take 16 to 20 hours at low heat to create the Maillard reaction, intense browning effect. The bread of today. Made with isolated yeast, which limits the bioavailability of the minerals in the bread. It also makes the bread more acid-forming. Yeast, unlike sourdough leavening, does not eliminate the phytic acid, and the minerals therein remain sequestered, mineral chelation. Baking powder, aluminum sulfate. Baking powder used, aluminum sulfate, often cut with yeast, which does not have the bacterial complexity of liquid sourdough. This is possible even if the bread is labeled sourdough bread. Industrial milling of grains using rapid steel blades, which create heat and expose the flour to oxidation and the degeneration of certain B vitamins, which, being finely ground, come into contact with light. Systematic use of old flour, which loses in just 2 to 12 days the vitality contained in the delicate wheat germ, including the precious vitamin E. Today's fast-made, lightweight loaves of bread do not contain the full range of nutrients that our heavy or slow-to-rise loaves of bread of the past contained. That being said, the French baguette tradition, which uses special high-protein, directly milled, non-hybridized wheat flour, the right combination of sourdough, preparation, and fermentation combine to create a modern daily bread which has therapeutic value for modern times. See Manot's delivery below. One author has even a theory that this type of bread can detoxify adrenaline from the body. This bread does not cause wheat belly. Hybridized grains such as soft wheat or winter wheat dominate the market. These 2 hybrids are directly implicated in gluten intolerance. At the bakery, even if the bread is labeled as rye, there is often wheat mixed in. Mining salt, high in sodium or table salt without trace minerals, is used because it is a cheaper, white, and more concentrated than sea salt. Modern commercial agriculture soils are deficient in manganese, construction of teeth, bones, nervous system. Do you ever wonder why we love pecans so much in America? because that distinctive taste is the taste of manganese, especially when soaked and toasted or mixed with butter and honey, as this destroys most of the deadly mycotoxins that are often on the surface of most packaged nuts in small, yet destabilizing quantities for some people. To eradicate them, soak nuts in salt water and then sun-dry or dehydrate them. Magnesium-deficient soil due to intensive monoculturing. Gluten-free bread may be helpful for many in transition, but only if it is made from traditional recipes from around the world. But removing wheat, rye, and spelt from these foods can distract us from repairing the underlying problem of why standard bread is no longer working for so many. Without understanding which traditions we have abandoned in bread making, we cannot fix the environment which is causing the gluten allergy. I have found that my energy is less stable on these types of bread, and I wonder about their effect on the gut flora over time. Formerly, the primary source of vitamin E and magnesium in the Western world was bread. Vitamin E, vascular tonic, helps circulation, major antioxidant, anti-cancer properties. New studies have shown an average loss of 50 to 80% of magnesium in the foods we eat today versus the same foods from the same regions in the 1930s. It is the hidden epidemic. Magnesium deficiency is best treated with Zextine Inside brand transdermal magnesium oil therapy. Did you know that in France in 1648 under Louis XIV, yeast was rejected by the royal court? Scientists of that time sounded the alarm, saying it would ruin the health of men. By now the practice is widespread. Then to top it off, we invented baking powder with aluminum acid salts, which, when combined with white flour, causes acidity in the body due to its alcoholic fermentation. Without the full action of sourdough leavening, the vitamins and minerals are trapped in our bread and consequently in our body. The body tries to use them, but they are chelated, sequestered by the phytic acid compounds. The body depletes its own reserves of vitamins and cofactors in this effort, so we pay double and we demineralize our reserves as we eat. One can measure in the sourdough leavening the level of carbon dioxide exhaled by the bacteria of the family Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which infiltrate the bread to do the job of expansion. In cooking and baking, sourdough, being acidic, also plays a protective role. Some vitamins, especially from the B complex, survive longer in an acidic environment and most minerals become more available. The round loaf of bread can also keep alive the valuable vitamins such as vitamin E for several days, provided that one cuts only a slice at a time. We could spend years trying to unravel the hidden intelligence in our traditions. We will never completely understand the complexity of our traditions as they are filled with mysteries. Grains, bread, and cereals need to be cooked, but first they need to be sprouted or have a pre-soak for about 12 to 24 hours in a slightly acidic medium, using whey, vinegar water, lemon water, etc., to be properly assimilated by the body. There are also many traditional dishes where cereals are fermented or sprouted before cooking, as did the Scots with their oat groats, or the Africans with their fermented millet, or the Arabs with fermented bulgur, or maybe you prefer fermented barley, which is used in the fabrication of beer. All of these approaches tend to imitate nature. Before industrial agriculture, we harvested the grain stalks and let them germinate in the stem, in the fields, because we could not collect them all at once. The speed of technology, even if it allows us to offer cheaper products on the shelves, costs a lot to our health and our digestion. From the WAPF website, the way we treat our cereals preparation is how our cereals will treat our intestines. For example, rice cakes and reconstituted breakfast cereals, like some puff cereals, are made by a process of grain extrusion at high temperatures, creating a sort of lamination to make them crisp eternally. Is that nature's way? Our internal physiology will not submit to our shortcuts without a price. We must deeply consider these industrial processes and their impact on our health. In America, Authentic bread makers, which are the minority for sure, often lead towards the old world bread. This past-oriented focus brings us to a more rustic bread, which is a good start, but allow me to point out a possible oversight. The staff of life, bread, can be broken down into three different technologies in unison. Nature's predigestion of the coarser parts of the grain, the spirit pneuma-infused fermentation process, the mannose delivery system. Technology number 1 and 2 have been understood by most artisan bakers, but the third is still a mystery. Technology number 3 is needed to deliver mannose, which is a key nutrient to feed the digestive system, allowing for smooth cellular exchanges, as mannose is a ubiquitous commodity in the intestinal flora, culture, and brain. Because this mystery has not been fully brought into consciousness, we find a specific type of strategy in American bread to overcome this deficiency. First off, the flour must be stone ground using a stone mill. These mills exist in America but must be sought out. Without this key feature, the mannose delivery has a tendency to spike blood sugar. The aware person will notice that these types of bread weaken the stability and constancy of the energy level. Weston Price once asked the village elder, who worked alongside the stone miller of a small town in Switzerland, why she thought cavities were appearing in their community. The elderly woman did not speak good English, and she just pointed to the stone mill. After translation, he understood that she was pointing at the millstone as if to reveal the mistake that many were making by beginning to move away from the stone milling into the steel roller milling trend that was sweeping the world at the time. An astute observation. Dr. Royal Lee, in the 1950s, took it a step further by saying that one must have one's own personal mini stone mill to reap the full benefits of the grain, by milling only that which is needed. The vitality of the vitamin content plays a less understood role in slowing down the glycemic spiking effect. This loss in vitality is accelerated once the grain is reduced to flour. Many will not notice the glycemic spike, as most of us stimulate all the time to cover up this energy drop with coffees, teas, sweets, salty treats, chocolate, cigarettes, by fabricating inner adrenaline through drama, iPods, and ecstatic behaviors or movements. The seeded bread movement, which is not a bad thing in and of itself, is an attempt to slow down the glycemic load by using nuts and seeds. However, victory has not yet been achieved here, as seeded breads can be less digestible for many when used daily, as bread should be used, at least historically. In France, millésime flours such as the Reine des Prés from the stone mills at Moulins Bourgeois are used in the traditional baguette due to their non-over-hybridized qualities and protein profile. They also have a natural sweetness. The baguette tradition has the glycemic index often labeled on the bag, as this particular need has been understood by many in France. There is a reason why it is called le pain quotidien in France, the daily bread, because something is lost rapidly after even one day. Most nations make fresh bread daily, and it is a sacred practice. The precious vitamin E, when exposed to air, light, and heat through the rapid steel blades of the modern mill, is greatly diminished. In the body, as it travels down to the intestines, it has less protection from oxidation and may even end up delivering mold alongside the precious mannose. Some expressions for dough or bread point to money or exchange as a symbol for bread, but also to the mannose commodity. The Hebrews were told to harvest daily the manna in the desert from a certain plant, otherwise there would not have been enough sustenance to maintain life if they had instead stored it up. To be fair, they also ate quail. But the point to be made is that there is a vital principle here. So what are the prerequisites for a daily therapeutic bread which doesn't make you gain weight, wheat belly, which over-hybridized grains from poor manganese content monocultured soils can cause? If you have heavy digestion, loose stools with jagged edges, gas, bloating, notice weight gain due to this element of your diet, or are not able to go 3 to 4 hours on the bread without a drop in energy, as part of a healthy breakfast with eggs, butter, with the bread, or equivalent fat and protein, then you may be using the wrong bread. A safe bet in this case would be toasted pumpernickel from Westphalia, Germany. True pumpernickel is always stone ground and slow cooked for 16 to 24 hours, which means they do not add beet or malt to color the bread, but the Maillard reaction, intense browning, happens naturally. This product can be found online and ordered every 6 months, in packs of 6 or 12, 24, etc. These breads have a naturally long shelf life due to the high vitamin E content from using directly milled flour. This same bread may also be found in specialty shops. Rye contains 70% less gluten than wheat and has more fiber, which is better for weight problems. Farms that grow wheat and rye in combination have more fertile soil. Local heirloom or imported rye, spelt, emmer, or einkorn-based breads using stone ground flour going directly from the mill to dough without shelving, or that use kibble, whole cracked heirloom rye bits, not flour, along with natural sourdough may also be of interest for rustic, old-world, healthy bread. As for a good modern approach, I have found a treasure in the American market in California. A baguette from the Justa bakery. This baguette is made with 45% Central Organic Milling High Mountain Dark Northern Spring Wheat, high in protein, combined with 51% Central Organic Milling Hard Winter Wheat, 6% organic rye flour. I am aware that the percentages go over 100%, but this is what is written on the package. Levain, a small amount of poolish, organic wheat germ, organic yeast, and sea salt. This is the only rival I have found to the true French traditional baguette, Grand Siècle, which combines the uniform digestibility of the Manos commodity without any allergic response while stimulating endorphins due to the particular jaw movements related to its chewy quality. I personally alternate the Manos-rich baguette and the nutrient-rich pumpernickel, fiber, vitamin E, magnesium. True liquid sourdough, kibble-based bread can partially overcome the lack of a stone mill and the damaging effects of the aeration of flour. Kibble is not flour but cracked and smashed bits of the grain, also called meal, which retain the vitamin E. Depending on the surrounding digestibility needs, pre-sprouted kibble may be used along with butter. Remember, local is a good thing, but it can backfire in certain areas. Many of the imported items allow us to use better soils or practices around the world for different vitamin and mineral needs. The USDA loves to brainwash us with local labeling because they know if we try imported meats, to pick one example, that we would realize that our best USDA prime products are inferior to the average steak in Europe. Be smart. Healthy competition may also push locals to step up their game and make a better offer. We are interdependent after all. If all else fails, you can order heirloom rye grains and a mini electric stone mill grinder for $150 and make the sourdough and kibble bread yourself using a cast iron Dutch oven to emulate a stone oven. With homemade liquid sourdough, bread making is easy and hassle-free.